and that you will have a very prosperous and blessed 2025. Now, this year, we are going to continue along the same vein in terms of bringing you all the issues, the political issues that are of concern and interest to you, our viewers and listeners. And of course, as always, we will provide for you some time towards the end of the program where you can call in for you to have an opportunity to tell it like it is. So, welcome once again. I'm your host, Lenard Spider Montoute, and you can join us on Hot 7 TV. On Flow, it is channel 117, Kiss FM 105.9 North and 105.5 South. And for those of you trying to follow us in the diaspora, you can, reach us on Caribbean Hit FM app, or you can, go to the United Workers Party Facebook page or my Facebook page, Lenard Spider Montoute, and you can join us, live online as well. So, thank you for joining us, and we're hoping that you will stay with us and have a very enlightening and enjoyable program. And we hope that as we go along, we can build our listenership and viewership throughout the year, because here is where it is, here is where we tell you the truth, and here is where you are enlightened as to the real issues as they are. And of course, as always, we start with our SLP segment. Now, when I say SLP, those of you who are followers of the program will know I'm talking about secrets, lies, and propaganda, SLP. And tonight we have a few clips for you where we are going to highlight the dishonesty, as usual, the dishonesty of our government. We know we have a government that has prided itself on bluff and, misleading and deceiving our people. And I would, as you always, start with my quote from Albert Einstein, which says, "Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters." And so there begs the question, can we trust our government, considering how often they have deceived us, they've lied to us? Here again, we're going to show you another example where that is in evidence. And so to introduce the program, I'd like to start off. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to SLP, the segment that deals with secrets, lies, and propaganda.
So when will it be? When will we see them guys euphoria? When will they stop to Mama Kai? Practice deceit and blatantly lie. Lord, oh Lord, it is sad.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to look at the statement made by the Prime Minister on salary negotiations with the unions. He made a declaration, and of course we heard the response from some of the unions. But rather than tell it to you in reported speech, I would like you to hear it in their direct speech, in their words. So first of all, let's hear the declaration that was made by the Prime Minister sometime late last year, indicating that negotiations had been concluded and that they had arrived at an agreement. Clip number 1, please.
I have encouraged the government's negotiating team to expedite the negotiations with public servants. I am informed that the government negotiating team and the trade unions have agreed on all allowances and benefits and have now agreed on a 13% wage increase for the period 2022 to 2028.
Okay, so you just heard the Prime Minister making a declaration that in fact he had given a directive that negotiations be expedited, and that it was reported to him that negotiations had been concluded and there was agreement among the trade unions as to accepting the 13%, which we'll talk about a little later on, 13% over a 6-year period. But then that negotiation would have taken place with the various unions, and you have the NWU, you have the Police Welfare Association, you have the prison officers, you have all of those different representative bodies. So let's hear what some of those trade unions had to say in response. Clip number 2, please.
The Correctional Services Welfare Association says despite recent reports, salary negotiations with the government have not concluded.
We can only speak on our behalf. Okay, we're still in negotiations with the government negotiating team on fringe benefits. Okay, I also want to highlight that we've not started any talks when it relates to salaries. So that part of the discussion we've not had at all with the GNT. Okay, but we're still in negotiations. We've not settled on all our fringe benefits.
The association's public relations officer, Yasmin Peters, says they will meet with members to discuss the government's proposed 13% wage increase. A key point of contention is the negotiation period, with differences between the association's proposal and the government's offer.
We're meeting with our membership tomorrow in light of all what has been said in the media with regards to negotiations being concluded. So we're meeting with the membership tomorrow. We will present to them the 13% which has been proposed, and then we'll take it from there. Because we know that we entered into negotiations for 3 years, 2022 to 2025, but now we're hearing something else that is for a 6-year period. But our document, when we submitted it to the GNT, is for a 3-year period, which ends in 2025. So we're meeting with our membership tomorrow, and we'll take the mandate from our membership. We will put on the table what is already proposed, the 13% for the 6 years, and then we'll present it to our membership, and then we'll take it from there.
All right. So you just heard from Ms. Peters, Yasmin Peters, the PRO of the Correctional Services Welfare Association, who is directly contradicting what the Prime Minister says. And so, there you have it. Clearly, someone is not telling the truth. But let's not jump to conclusions yet. Let us hear what another representative body for the workers has to say. Clip number 3, please.
No time during the process of our negotiations did we agree to negotiating a double triennium. That it was clear and understood between both parties. In fact, our proposal collective agreement specified the period for 1 triennium, which is the current one.
Okay. So here again, you have a second representative body, and you just heard from the president of the Police Welfare Association, Mr. Common Law, who contradicted again what the Prime Minister just said in the first clip. And so let us have one more clip. Clip number 4, and let's hear what is being said by this other representative body.
Benefits. The NWU has not agreed to any such thing, explains Embert Eugene, Junior Industrial Relations Specialist at the union. According to him, the NWU and the non-established daily paid workers, which it represents, were caught off guard by the announcement.
It made it a bit difficult for us in that we had a lot of members calling, questioning about how we could go ahead and accept a 13% increase without consultation with them. So that was the difficulty we had on our part. But as soon as we were able to clarify, as soon as we were able to make the shop stewards and everybody know that on our part we have not accepted a 13%, what we had to do and what our membership mandated is that we send a message across to affirm that the National Workers Union have not accepted a 14% increase and that we are still in negotiations for our members.
Okay, so you just heard from Mr. Embert Eugene of the NWU, again contradicting what the Prime Minister has said. So clearly, my Prime Minister has lied to the nation. And that is the problem with this current government, where they believe that the bluffs and the lie will always serve them well. They've got into office riding on deceit and lies, and they feel that they can maintain their reign in office and do business by continuing perpetuating the lies and the deceit on the public of St. Lucia. We would like the government to understand that you can no longer fool St. Lucians. And it is good that the representatives of the various unions had the courage to come out and debunk what was said by the Prime Minister and expose his lies and deceit. So, Mr. Prime Minister, level with your people, be honest. It has to do with integrity. And so, ladies and gentlemen, you just saw in this segment of Secret Lies and Propaganda the lying ways of our Prime Minister, who was exposed by the representatives of various unions.
Tout a bouche yo, say lie, a ballon yo, say lie, a the bag yo, say lie, a the posh yo, say lie, is lie, 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 when they sitting in parliament.
Welcome back to our viewers and listeners to Like It Is, the first episode for 2025. And we are happy that you have joined us. And here is where you hear the issues that are of interest and concern to you, St. Lucia. And we tell you exactly like it is. Stay tuned with us, because at some point during the program, we will open the lines where you will have an opportunity for you to tell it like it is. And so tonight, we are going to just take a brief moment to reflect, to review what was 2024. As far as 2024 was concerned here in St. Lucia, we heard the Prime Minister deliver his New Year's address, and he made it sound as if we had such a wonderful 2024, like everything was, rosy, and it was, so prosperous for us here in St. Lucia. And I wondered for a moment whether the Prime Minister was describing and talking about a St. Lucia different to the St. Lucia that I live in. And that is the thing, where politicians feel that they can fool people despite the fact that people are living the experiences for themselves and they know firsthand exactly what it is they're experiencing. I heard the Prime Minister talk about a number of areas like health and so on, and talk about the progress that we have made in health. But let me just remind you what was, in fact, 2024. In 2024, we had continued hardship with the high cost of living. In his address, the Prime Minister talked about the high cost of living, but of course, he blamed it on the high cost of the high price of goods internationally. And so, according to him, the inflation that we are experiencing in St. Lucia, the high cost of living, was imported. Well, sir, yes, around the world, prices have gone up, and there is inflation, and we import quite a number of goods that have increased in price, resulting in an increase in price of goods. But what governments, as I've always said, what governments do in cases like this is to adopt policies, economic policies, that will bring reprieve to their citizens. What you did, sir, as Minister of Finance and Prime Minister of this country, was exacerbate the situation, compound our sorrows by adding a further 2.5% on goods and services, further making life difficult for St. Lucians, increasing the price of goods and services in this country, and causing higher inflation for St. Lucians. That is what you did. And so we St. Lucians suffered more than we should have because of your bad policy, your policies of increasing taxes on St. Lucians. I recall that the United Workers' Party, when in office, reduced the VAT from 15% to 12.5%, a reduction of 2.5%. And promised that should it return to government, they would have further reduced the VAT to 10%. Instead of reducing the tax any further, what the government did was introduce a levy again, with lies and deceit. They misled St. Lucians into thinking that levy was necessary to take care of health and security in this country. Now, that was the first admission by the government that health was in a deplorable condition and that security, was deplorable in this country. However, we all agreed, because we felt as bad as things were, if they needed some extra cash to set those things right, we didn't have a problem in paying those taxes. However, we found out that was never the case. The real reason for imposing that levy on us was to raise revenue to secure a loan from the Caribbean Development Bank. And they did not tell us that. They lied to us, making us believe it was because of health and security. But we know health and security continued to be dismal. All that happened, the only difference and change that took place was that the cost of living went up, the price of goods and services went up in St. Lucia, making life more difficult for us in the last year. They also touted last year as the year of infrastructure. And I thought that meant that during that year, we would see a heavy emphasis and an increase in infrastructural projects taking place in this country. And I anticipated that we would see some housing projects. I anticipated that the roads, as deplorable as they are, given the fact that they had stopped many of the road projects that were already on the way after they assumed office, I thought that, they would make good on, giving St. Lucians, again, a reprieve on the road. Our roads are in the worst, most deplorable conditions that they have been in for a very, very long time. Even just today, I was reading a statement from the National Transport Association, NCOPT, I think. What is it? The National Public Transport Association. In fact, the president was making a statement indicating that they will have to see if they can recoup the cost of the damage that is being done to their vehicles on the road. That's how bad things have become. And they tell you about the Soufrière Road, the West Coast Road, how deplorable it is that a taxi driver is now going through the Vieux-Fort area to go to Soufrière rather than use the West Coast Road. That's how bad it is. We have the Millennium Highway that started during the reign of the United Workers' Party. It is going on 4 years now since the St. Lucia Labour Party is in office. And we have not been able to see the completion of that road. That road has been under construction forever. More than 4 years now, that road has been under construction. And mind you, the very same Minister of Infrastructure is presiding over the construction of that road. That is the Honorable Stevenson King, the lazy roller. And as shameless as this gentleman is, he talked one time about his frustration with the contractors and, even between himself and the Prime Minister, they even threatened to protest. I mean, come on, how can you insult St. Lucian's intelligence to that extent? You are in charge. You are the ones who are in a position to make things happen. When things do not happen, gentlemen, the buck stops with you. So all those excuses, those bluff, those put on, we're not going to fool St. Lucians with that anymore. It is because you are incompetent. That is why we are facing the situation that we are facing right now. And so, the lazy roller and the Prime Minister, you can, just come clean with St. Lucians and admit your incompetence. And that is why this road has not been completed. And there are many roads, byways in St. Lucia that are in a bad condition. I don't have to tell you. You St. Lucians, you drive, you walk, and you see it for yourself. The year that was, again, talking about projects that take an eternity. And of course, don't fool yourself. With that extended period, long delays in the completion of those projects comes cost overruns. And we will talk about that in later programs because there are a number of projects in St. Lucia that are experiencing cost overruns as we speak. And so another project I want to bring to your attention is the St. Jude's Hospital that after more than 3 years, about 3.5 years in office, the St. Lucia Labour Party still cannot complete that St. Jude project. Now again, I will remind you of what they said when in opposition. They said all that was required was a few coats of paint and some chemical and that you could move into the hospital. That's all that was required and a few dollars. Well, we are hearing them budgeting hundreds of millions of dollars to complete that project. And what they have done is abandon the brand new state-of-the-art, designed for purpose hospital that the United Workers' Party began, which would have been completed in the space of about 6 months if they had continued working on it, for far less than what they are expending right now on the old hospital that was not designed to be a hospital, that is not a modern facility to meet the requirements of state-of-the-art hospitals. There they are spending hundreds of millions in addition to what has already been spent, and after 3.5 years, still have not been able to complete that hospital. Again, I expect, and we will be finding out about that later, how much cost overrun will be incurred on that project as well. Healthcare. Now, the Prime Minister shamelessly made it sound in his New Year's address that they had made strides in health. May I remind you that during the course of 2024, we had a statement from the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association indicating that the state of health in this country was the worst that they had ever seen it. In other words, sir, between you and your Minister of Health, you all have presided over the worst conditions in healthcare that St. Lucians have ever seen. St. Lucians complain every day about how deplorable it is, how heart-wrenching it is to go to OKEU and not have medication, not have doctors and nurses to attend to them, where people sit in alleyway on chairs, and on the floor for hours and sometimes days because they're unable to get a bed. The medication is not available and all that. And you have the guts to talk to St. Lucians and tell them that. So we are the ones who use the facility. And those of us who don't go to the facility have relatives and friends who go to it. And we hear what they say. We hear the complaints. Some of us visit and we see what obtains there. You cannot fool all the people all the time. The bluff has worked in the past. It will not work again. And so we know what healthcare is. The SLMDA told us, and we can see for ourselves. CIP scandal. So you made a statement that the opposition, along with international figures, are trying to destroy the CIP program. I say to you, no. What we are trying to do is to salvage the CIP program while your minister and your officials under your watch are trying very hard to destroy it. Because what they have done so far is to undermine the integrity of the program, undermine the reputation of this country, and we are afraid that if it continues like this, very soon we will not have a CIP program in St. Lucia to fall back on. I've always said I'm not the biggest fan of the CIP, but given our circumstance, lack of natural resources and all of that, that is one avenue where we can generate resources and raise revenue for this country that can be utilized in areas such as healthcare, such as security, such as education. And so any source of funds that we can get is welcome. But there are many questions that lurk around the CIP program and over the heads of your officials, your minister, and your head of the CIP unit. And so these are the things that we have to address. You didn't speak of what is being done to ensure that you clear the air on those programs. But there are many questions still to be answered. And in the course of this year, we will be revisiting the CIP program and the issues that plague that program and who is responsible for that situation. Abuse of power. I was hoping that for a change, you would have addressed the abuse of power by your ministers. That I say, and when I refer to your ministers, that is spearheaded by the handpicked minister in your Prime Minister's office, Richard Frederick. The way he attacks and abuses ordinary St. Lucians, the way he goes about just exposing private, personal information about individuals, using his privileged position as a government minister to attack individuals. So that is unbecoming, and that is beneath the office that you all hold. You as the leader, you as the Prime Minister, you as the one who is responsible for having Richard Frederick in the office that he holds, you ought to do something about it. You need to put an end to it. I will come back to that in a little while as we go through the program. Now, you headed, so the Prime Minister, I'm referring to you, you headed a party in opposition that constantly spoke about foreigners and accusing the government of giving priority and preference to foreigners and so on. What do we see now? We see you heading a government that has literally sold out our patrimony to foreigners. What do I mean by that? Worst of all is the situation with GPH. You have literally sold out our ports, our two ports, two of the areas where we generate revenue in this country, that is the Castries port and the Sucre port, and you have handed it over for the next possibly 40 years to a foreign company that will generate much revenue to the tune of over $400 million, while they are only going to spend $40 million for that. And while they are doing so, they have not even started work yet. My understanding is that they are already receiving, generating millions of dollars from the project. That, along with what you did allow to happen at Banans, that, along with what you allowed to happen with the contract that you gave to NH to build the halls of justice, these are all areas where you have literally sold out our patrimony to foreigners. I notice that we have asked for a reprieve from the 2.5%. You cannot find it in you to have some compassion on St. Lucians, but when foreigners ask for a reprieve from the 2.5%, you have no issue, no problems with granting it to them. I also want to talk about the escalating crime situation. Mr. Prime Minister, Philip J. Pierre, you are the Minister of National Security. I don't know if you realize it, but you did not mention it in your New Year's address. So, once again, you have presided over a record-breaking year for homicides in this country. This last year, marked the year where we saw the most murders in St. Lucia. The previous year, we had a record of 75, and you, sir, presided over the breaking of that record. Officially, we are being told that it is 77, but those of us who are following what is going on know that it is more than 77. And I say so because, for example, let me just give you one example. There's this lady from Rodney Bay area, who was attacked in her home and brutalized badly, and was sent to England for treatment, and she passed away. She was not added to that list. And there are others. So, but I will go by the official list that your government is presenting. It is 77. 70, according to your official report, 77 St. Lucians perished on the streets and at their homes in St. Lucia this last year. While you continue to watch the crime rate in St. Lucia grow, and all you can talk about is providing vehicles to police officers and employing colleagues of yours to fancy named ministries like Ministry of Crime Prevention and so on. But St. Lucians see the crime rate rising, the homicide rate continuing to set new records unabated. So that is a serious situation. I'm not suggesting to you that the other situations are not serious, because the health situation leads to death as well, and death is the ultimate. I mean, the other areas, we can always redress that, but once a life is lost, that is irreversible. You did not show much concern, much regard, as the person with direct responsibility and who presides over the fate of St. Lucians in terms of their safety and security. Now, that is the year, in a nutshell, that was 2004. I am hoping, I am praying that this year, that the Lord will smile on us, because we cannot depend on you and your government, who still are unable to present to us a plan to make things better. I think what you all are doing is just hoping and blaming. That has not worked. That will not work. I'm calling on St. Lucians. Let us see what we can do for ourselves, because we are the ones who are in jeopardy. When it comes to crime, the Prime Minister and his handpicked minister, Richard Frederick, walk around with bodyguards. They have their security. You and I don't. Our families, ourselves, we all are exposed, vulnerable, and at risk. So let us hope that we can do whatever we can among ourselves, despite the fact that we are not the ones with the bulk of the resources. So we don't have the access to the resources of state. But let us do what we can. I've always asked St. Lucians to try to resolve your disputes amicably, try to, de-escalate conflict, so as to prevent it from getting to the stage where violence will ensue and loss of life will occur. So, St. Lucians, let us play our part as far as that is concerned. I'm hoping that the Prime Minister, it's not too late for him to take advice and give St. Lucians a reprieve, remove that 2.5% levy on our backs. The price of gas, despite the price on the international market, is exorbitant here in St. Lucia, over $16 a gallon of gas. Again, let the price here in St. Lucia reflect the price on the international market to give motorists in St. Lucia some reprieve, and do something about the health situation, improve the circumstances at OKEU so that St. Lucians, even when they are perhaps ill, very ill, and facing emergencies, they are reluctant to go to the hospital because they think that going to the hospital will increase their chances of perishing as opposed to staying home. Let us bring our health care system up to a standard that is deserving of the citizens of St. Lucia. So these are a few of the things you must give top priority. And of course, the reputation of our country, let us try to salvage it. You'll have sullied it enough. The CIP program, sir, you as Prime Minister, need to answer the looming questions and deal with the situation as has been exposed. Because we know that the number of files issued to Galaxy far exceed in the hundreds of millions the cost of the projects that are going to be undertaken. That money, we want to know where is it going to whom is it going, and why isn't our country, our citizens, not the beneficiaries of that amount of money, which we can well do with. So I will take a break at this point, and when we come back, we will look at the Philip J. Pierre's administration disdain and disrespect for St. Lucians. So please stay tuned, and stay tuned, those of you who are watching us on Hot 7 TV, those of you who are listening on KISS FM, and those of you in the diaspora watching us on live stream. And of course, you can also listen to us in the diaspora on Caribbean Hit FM app. So in a moment, we'll be back. Please stay tuned. Welcome back, viewers and listeners, to Like It Is. This is, as I told you, the first in our series of programs for 2025, the first episode. And tonight, I am going to go into this next segment where we'll talk about the disdain and disrespect meted out to the St. Lucian public by the government of St. Lucia. I think in this new year, something has to be done about it. We, as citizens of this country, should not continue to tolerate it. And you may be wondering what I'm talking about. I'm talking about some of the abuse of power that is taking place in the ranks of the government of St. Lucia by ministers of government here in St. Lucia. Of course, Richard Frederick, who spearheads the SLP and the Prime Minister's PR, exemplifies the approach that is approved and encouraged by the Prime Minister and his government. Now, the approach that I'm talking about here, you may wonder what exactly. Well, I'm talking about the arrogance. I'm talking about the disrespect. I'm talking about the vileness and the disdain. And we see it on a weekly basis. Because, of course, like I said, it is spearheaded by Richard Frederick, but it is condoned, it is endorsed, and it is encouraged by the St. Lucia Labour Party government. And, of course, when I talk about the St. Lucia Labour Party government, we know that the Prime Minister is the head of the government, and the Prime Minister himself is the one who selected Richard Frederick and placed him in his office, no less, to do exactly what he is doing right now. And so it seems fine to Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre to have his handpicked mouthpiece, the pugnacious Richard Frederick, launch weekly crass attacks on St. Lucians, including private citizens of this country. Now, to have a government minister in the Prime Minister's office divulging private information derived from government sources to which he is privy, is in fact unacceptable and beneath the standards that is required from government officials, especially ministers of government. It makes no difference to him how personal the information might be. You have Richard Frederick, with files on television saying that he has documents on individuals given to him by the police. You have Richard Frederick coming on his show, waving documents and files on individuals, reading out private information of transactions and business conducted by citizens of St. Lucia with the government of St. Lucia. And you have occasions where if any citizens of this country complain or criticize any project or policy of the government, Richard Frederick will launch a vicious attack on the individual, in a manner that is unbecoming of a minister of government. And we have heard nothing from the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister will tell you that Richard Frederick is not a product of the St. Lucia Labour Party, and Richard Frederick is not a member of the St. Lucia Labour Party. But that's something else I have to come to, because, I find Richard Frederick so shameless sometimes, that he would come in a public forum and be begging to be accepted as a member. But I think Richard Frederick should realize that he is beginning to meet his demise in politics. And not even the St. Lucia Labour Party wants to embrace him now. They have used him to acquire their victory at the polls, and now they want to dump him. But I want to say one thing to the St. Lucia Labour Party. The same Richard Frederick who contributed to your election victory is the same Richard Frederick that will bring about your demise at the next election and cause you to lose the next general election. If you don't believe what I say, talk to the UWP. History repeats itself. And so, you can have your fun, but you will pay the price. And of course, you will come down as a party with Richard Frederick when he comes down. And so we have seen a clear decline in ethics and a lack of integrity in as far as how the current government relates to the public here in St. Lucia. So we all know that Richard Frederick is notoriously crass. We all know that Richard Frederick is known for making vile utterances on a weekly basis on his show. And we know it is not surprising. But what is surprising to me, and what is even more unacceptable to me, is the Prime Minister's tacit endorsement of that type of behavior from a member of his cabinet. What is also surprising to me is the rest of the cabinet's passive endorsement of Richard Frederick's behavior without a murmur. What does Emma Hippolyte think of Richard Frederick and his behavior? What does Sean Edward think? What does Alva Baptiste think? Don't you all have an opinion? Don't you all have a view? Don't you all see what is happening? Don't you all hear what is happening? Do you all think that is appropriate? Do you all think that that is acceptable? You are all part of this unacceptable behavior because you endorse it, you accept it, and you encourage it. You are going to pay the price because you are part of that team who think that Richard Frederick is what St. Lucia needs and what St. Lucia deserves. I'm saying to you, we know a higher standard in this country. We don't need a member of cabinet who has no manners, who has no respect, and who is so vile and indiscreet like Richard Frederick. And you all have made him your hitman because I guess you all can't come out and do it yourselves, but you all have recruited him, made him your hitman to do the damage for you. The damage he is doing is against the people of St. Lucia, and the people of St. Lucia will have a say about that. And talking about that, the people of St. Lucia are already beginning to express their sentiments on what is happening. And Richard Frederick, you have realized that you are beginning to see your demise right before your very eyes. Yes, your political stature and your political fortune is in decline. You know it. We know it. And so I see you ranting and raving and behaving in a desperate manner, making all kinds of utterances, spewing all kinds of angry tirades. That will not help you. That will not save you. When momentum begins to build against you, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And so, in desperation, your behavior has become more erratic than ever before. And I've listened to you. You as a minister of government, and let's not just forget that you're a minister of government. You are a legislator in this country. You are a lawyer by profession. And you, Richard, was a former police officer. So you do know better than what you're doing there. It is just that you are low life, that you're crass, that you're vile, you have no manners, and you believe that you can bully people into submission, that you can threaten people into submission, and so you come out and behave this way. But I'm saying to you, that is not working on St. Lucians. That is not working in St. Lucia anymore. People have seen through you, and people are ready to deal with you. And so, Richard Frederick, that is why, when you come and you display that kind of behavior, you come on television and you attack members of the public, you show documents, you read from documents pertaining to people's private business with government. Your prime minister accepts that, has no problem with that. The rest of your cabinet members accept that and endorse it. We, the people of St. Lucia, know a better way. We, the people of St. Lucia, know that that is unacceptable, and we are not going to take it forever. And that is why the people of Central Castries have begun to turn against you. And I will dissect that in a little moment. But I'm saying, before I go any further, Philip J. Pierre and the rest of the St. Lucia Labour Party, you have brought in a gentleman who has destroyed the integrity of your government. And when it comes to doing business with government, St. Lucians now have to think twice. And when it comes to dealing with officials of government, St. Lucians have to think twice, because their business can be on the streets, their business can be on television, because you all have no ethical standards, you all have no integrity, and you all feel that what Richard is doing is fine, and you all are supporting him and endorsing what he is doing. So the St. Lucia Labour Party today, is like a group of jamettes who feel that they can just attack people, relentlessly without good reason. In some cases, people who cannot even defend themselves, including people who are dead. Because I watched Richard go to town on Skinny, Mr. Maynard, who died recently, showing and reading out documents, of business transactions that the gentleman conducted with government, calling people's names. I also saw Richard on his show on television, calling out the names of individuals in Castries and calling them criminals and saying what should be done with them. I saw Richard Frederick on television, and that's for you, Mr. Minister of National Security, giving orders to the police, giving directives to the police on national television, But Richard will say in a live that he does not micromanage his portfolios. He does not only micromanage his portfolios, Mr. Prime Minister, he micromanages your portfolio, because national security is supposed to fall under you. It would not be appropriate for you as Minister of National Security to come on television and give directives to the police in the manner in which Richard Frederick did it. Far less for Richard Frederick to do so. And you have no problem with that. You condone that. You encourage that. You tacitly endorse it. You have no problem with it. That cannot be acceptable. What has our country come to? Is that the standard that we know? Is that what passes for government in this country? Now, an individual like Richard Frederick needs to be put in his place, because Richard Frederick does not belong to the most hallowed halls of the Parliament of St. Lucia, or to sit in the cabinet making decisions on behalf of people. And if you can behave like this in public, I can only imagine the people that you have an issue with, the people who do not support you, how you behave, at the table, in cabinet, in the confines of the world with your colleagues who have no problem with what you do. And so St. Lucians have to be concerned. You have to be concerned, because if Richard Frederick can determine who is a criminal and who is not a criminal. And what is worse, Richard Frederick was on television advocating violence. A minister of government, a legislator, a lawyer by profession, a former police officer, openly advocating violence on television. And you advocated violence, Richard, when you said that you wish that the tourists who took on, who you refer to as the robber who attacked him, you wish he had met his demise. In other words, St. Lucians, what Richards is saying, that he wished the tourists had killed the guy who robbed him. Now, I am not encouraging crime. I'm not endorsing crime in any way. If you commit a crime and in the person's defense, what you get, you take. But for you, in your position, to be openly suggesting that that is what the individual should have done, to kill the person who robbed him. And you went further, Richard, to say that you're so angry that if you were to see one of the guys that you mentioned robbing a tourist, what you would do. What are you suggesting, Richard? What would you do? What would you do? Are you suggesting that you would take your firearm and cause that person to meet his demise? In other words, kill that person? I mean, we know you're a violent person, Richard. We have seen you display your violent behavior on several occasions. Okay, you have shot after people and put boring holes in their water tank and all of that. You have done that. But I would have thought that by now, and with the position that you hold, that would temper your temper. That it would temper your temper, Richard, and that you would understand that you should be the last person to advocate violence to the public of St. Lucia. And that, I want to say to you, Prime Minister, is highly inappropriate and demands that you, as head of the parliament, the person responsible for Richard's presence in our cabinet, should have something to say about that. Now, I'm not comfortable with Richard Frederick, given his reputation, okay, given his character as described by us by the St. Lucia Labour Party. And let me remind you what the St. Lucia Labour Party said about Richard. It is alleged by the St. Lucia Labour Party that Richard Frederick is a drug dealer, that Richard Frederick is a money launderer, and that Richard Frederick might well be a murderer. Now, when you have that characterization, and you all embrace that very person that you're describing that way, and have him in your cabinet. Now, when you have a character like this, who is controlling the police, and I have every reason to say that he's controlling the police because he has waved to us files and told us how he has further files that is thick so of information derived from the police, the information that was given to him by the police on individuals in this country. And he can come on television and talk about he directed the SSU to do this. And he's directing the Commissioner of Police as to what he should be doing. That is dangerous. That is dangerous. And I want to say to you, Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre, there are a number of you who have been Prime Minister of this country who are alive today. Among them, you have Stephenson King, you have Dr. Kenny Anthony, you have Alan Shastney, and yourself. I want St. Lucians to know that those gentlemen that I've just mentioned, there are things that they know that you and I will never know. They are privy to information, especially of a confidential nature of that pertains and deals with security that they know. So when Dr. Anthony spoke about Richard Frederick, he knew what he was talking about. When Alan Shastney agreed with his party to get rid of Richard Frederick, he knew what he was doing. Stephenson King was too weak, or should I say compromised, to do anything about Richard Frederick. You now burden yourself with Richard Frederick by bringing him into your cabinet, and you now are so compromised by Richard Frederick that you cannot take a stand to stop what is happening and to do something about it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a sad state of affair that we have in this country. We cannot allow this to continue. The Prime Minister must take responsibility for what is happening there right now. We cannot have a minister of government running the affairs of this country, especially our security that is in such a deplorable state, on national television, and someone with the character and reputation of Richard Frederick giving directives to our police officers. And let us not forget, well, maybe most of you don't know, but those who have seen or know of the report, the impacts report, know of the references that were made and to whom it was made, which government ministers it was made, and what the accusations and allegations were in that report, including some accusations and allegations that were made by individuals who were related to some of the victims who lost their lives in some extrajudicial killings and who that was linked to. And you're going to have that individual. I want to say to you, St. Lucians, I know, because I was a part of Sir John's administration when he just came into government, Richard Frederick wanted to be the Minister of National Security. I'm beginning to understand the reason why Sir John would never let that happen. Okay? I know under Stephenson Kingwell, to his credit, he did not allow Richard Frederick to be Minister of National Security. But it seemed that he has finally gotten what he wants because he is the de facto Minister of National Security now, running the police force. Okay, he's putting up no loitering sign, telling the SSU what to do, giving the commissioner directives, and of course the city police giving them directives on television. That is, according to Dr. Kenny Anthony, and I don't like to quote politicians, that is frightening. Prime Minister Pierre, you have to do something about that. Because violence begets violence, and you have a minister of government preaching violence on television. That must stop. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I will take another short break, but when we come back, I will open the lines so that you can have your say. But just remember before we go, Richard, as he comes crashing down, okay, will take Philip J. Pierre and the SLP down with him. I promise you that. Because this is a self-centered, egotistic, and coward individual who does not have any concern or regard for anyone but himself. He will throw you all under the bus when the time comes. But unfortunately for him, his time has come. And so, there's a young man who is causing you much consternation. The gentleman's name is Rush Clark, and he will be the one who will end your political career and put the full stop on your demise. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back shortly. Stay tuned, and when you come back, I will give you the number where you can call and make your contribution on Like It Is as we continue our discussion. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Like It Is, and we're into our final segment, and during this segment I'll be opening the lines so that you can make your contribution. You will have an opportunity to tell it like it is. All we ask for is that you be polite, you be courteous. Remember that you're on live television, you're on live stream, and you're on live radio as well. And in a moment I will give you the numbers that you can call, and so that you can make your contribution. We were in our previous segment discussing what passes for government, the disdain and disrespect that is meted out to the St. Lucian public by the government of St. Lucia, and we have seen that the SLP has lost their way in terms of how they are so vile and disrespectful to St. Lucians, how they are arrogant and disdainful, and the way in which people, citizens of this country, are attacked by Richard Frederick, the St. Lucia Labour Party, the main spokesperson, who was specifically handpicked by the Prime Minister to do just what he is doing. But as I said, we are seeing the demise of Richard Frederick. We know that he does not have far to go. And so, we have seen his behavior. And, over the season, he demonstrated his desperation and his frustration and the fact that he has realized that he is in decline. And so he was talking about he don't want people to call him bossman. Well, they've stopped calling you bossman, Richard. You're no longer the bossman that you were. And you have been in decline for a while now. You have gone from pitbull to mongrel, and so that is just what it is. So I want to just give you the numbers that you can call as I open the line. The number is 4500777. And on WhatsApp, it's 284-3499. I think we have a caller, so we're going to take our first call for 2025. Please go ahead, caller. Make your contribution. Tell it like it is.
Good night, Mr. Montoute. How are you doing today?
Good night, sir. I'm fine, thank you. Happy
I'm listening to that how you call it, about Richard Frederick. This guy is very corrupt, you know. We really have to do something with this guy, you know.
Well, we'll depend on the people of Castries Central to do it. And there's a young gentleman called Rush Clark.
I know for sure that Labour Party will kick him out any time.
Well, they're not going to kick him out. They're just using him. They're just trying to use him until the next general election. But they are making a big mistake because he is going to meet his demise and he will bring them down with him. I can assure you of that.
Yes, man. I like what you're doing. You're doing a very good work, man.
Tip you very much.
You know, keep it up, right?
Thank you. And keep listening to Like It Is.
Okay.
Yes. So I was saying that, well, while the Labour Party thinks that Richard Frederick is doing them a favor, what he's doing is bringing them down with him. And he's the type that will throw you under the bus. Richard has no loyalty to anyone other than himself. And so when the time comes, you notice how he exposes everybody, no matter what relationship he had with them before, he will go on live television and in public and speak of discussions, their private discussion they had, what transpired, what he has done for you, what he has given to you. I was once a colleague of Richard, and I thought long and hard. I know I've never accepted anything from Richard, but, to me, I don't know, I probably drunk a drink or two from him. Richard, if you know how much it costs, let me know so I can pay you back, because, the next thing you know, he'll be on television and saying he bought me a drink, That's the kind of guy he is. We have a caller on the line. Could you please go ahead and make your contribution? Good night and welcome to Like It Is. Tell it like it is, please, caller. Hello?
Yes, good night, sir.
Yes, good night, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, all the best. I was calling on behalf of the what was going on with Richard Frederick.
Yeah, let's say what you have to say.
Yeah, I was like, what? It's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. Understatement, I agree with you fully.
No, I was asking you because I say, like you say, you're bringing down the...
You saying if it's not a good thing?
I was asking.
Well, you heard what I said, what I was talking about? I was talking about Richard Frederick going on television, calling people's name, exposing people's private information, reading documents of business transactions that people had with government and things like that. I'm saying a government minister should not and cannot be doing something like that. So I totally am against that, and you, if you have any decency, should be against it as well. Yeah, I think we lost that caller. Do we have another caller? Okay, we don't have another caller as yet. So while we are with the call, let me just repeat the number. It is our landline is 4500777, 4500777, and our WhatsApp number is 284-3499. So you can call us either on our landline or on WhatsApp, 4500777 or 284-3499. And tonight, we have also discussed the year that was, the number of things that did not go right last year, and we're hoping will improve this year. And included among them, on top of the list, is the rate of homicides, the murder rate in St. Lucia, the number of people that are dying through violent crime in this country. We are hoping that our healthcare system will be brought under some measure of control so that the hospital will not be seen as a slaughterhouse for St. Lucians, but a place where they can go and recuperate and get proper health treatment, that we will see a decline in the high cost of living by the government not compounding our high costs and inflation with a 2.5% that they have imposed upon us, that they will remove it on the backs of St. Lucians to give St. Lucians some reprieve as far as that is concerned. We are also looking at the gas prices that are so high when the price on the international market is going down and the price at the pump here in St. Lucia remain high. We're looking at the corruption that is taking place in government. We're looking at the CIP scandal. We're looking at all of those areas that need improvement. I think we are getting a call, WhatsApp call now. Let me accept this call. Yes, good evening, caller. Welcome to Like It Is. Happy New Year to you.
Hi,
And please go ahead and tell us like it is.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
I'm calling to make my contribution.
Please go ahead.
Richard Frederick is not suitable for a minister. He is disrespectful and he needs a lot of home training. He's a waste of space. Bye.
Well, I hope the Prime Minister heard you as a St. Lucian making this observation, and the Prime Minister knows it because they described Richard Frederick to us earlier on when he was a member of the UWP. The UWP got rid of him, and the Prime Minister has picked him up and placed him in his cabinet as a member of his cabinet. So it is not news to them. It is just how they feel about St. Lucians and what they think St. Lucians deserve, and that's why they're giving you an overdose of Richard Frederick in his true character and image, disrespecting St. Lucian on a weekly basis. I think we have another caller online. I would like to take this call. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Like It Is. Happy New Year to you. Please go ahead and tell it like it is.
Happy New Year to my PR, Honorable Lenard Spider Montoute, and I wish you all the best in the new year, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I think that was the very first caller to Like It Is. Welcome for 2025. Yes.
And I'm wishing all my United Workers Party, my Flubbo family, a happy new year, and we will retain the governance of St. Lucia.
Yes.
Which is what we need right now. I would like to make a comment on the behavior of this so-called, government minister, Richard Frederick, and the MP for Castries Central. Richard Frederick has a history of what I call disgraceful and distasteful and disgusting behavior. To tell me, last year we saw the attack on private citizens. Like you said, their private transactions was exposed in the public domain. One person in question that jumps to mind is Joycelyn Fannis, the vendor. Her transactions as it pertains to the Castries City Council were exposed in the public. She was insulted and humiliated. And that did not stop. Here it is in the new year, 2025. Yeah. Richard Frederick's behavior continues. His distasteful, his disrespectful, his degrading behavior. It continues with Skinny. Skinny, may his soul rest in peace, and condolences to the family of Skinny. He passed. It's not right. It's disgraceful. It's distasteful. It's disgusting to tell me that you're going to say what you did for Skinny, how much Skinny owed the National Housing Corporation. And you're trying to insinuate Richard Frederick that Skinny, his wife, want to con the National Housing Corporation to get an apartment. And you went further to give strict instructions to put the padlocks on the apartment of Skinny while his wife was in the apartment. That is disgraceful.
Well, caller, on your classless person does that, come and talk about what they have done for whether it's true or not, what they have done for an individual. If you're close to a person, whatever transpires between you, that is for you and the person. And then you come there and then to reveal personal information, confidential information from documents coming from the Ministry of Housing. That is just totally inappropriate. How does that speak to the integrity in doing government business? I mean,
Exactly, and then to add to make it worse, he went on to say, Skinny was owing $6,000 rent from the NHC, and it had to take him and the Labour Party to waive the debt of Skinny. Let me educate St. Lucian. The debt that was waived was not only for Skinny, it was waived across the board. And mind you, that money didn't come from the pocket of Richard Frederick. The money came from the taxpayer. The same thing applied when Alan Chaplin was in government. He waived the debt at the Victoria Hospital, over $1 million. Persons who were in Victoria Hospital at the time, Alan Chaplin waived the debt. Did you hear Alan Chaplin boasting and bragging that he waived debt for people at Victoria Hospital?
Well,
no.
That would be totally inappropriate.
The money did not come from your pocket.
The only person who could have done that in the United Workers Party would be Richard Frederick himself, and that is why he's no longer a member of the United Workers Party. So let him do it in the St. Lucia Labour Party. Let St. Lucians see the true character of the individual and the nature of the St. Lucia Labour Party to have a man like that in their ranks. and to be condoning such behavior. But caller, thank you very much for your contribution.
And I just want to say to St. Lucia, this coming New Year, lastly, I'll be very short, that we have to rally around this young man, Rush Platt, and ensure that he brings the bacon home and wins this Castries Central seat to get rid of that cancer in the politics of St. Lucia called Richard Frederick once and for all. Have a blessed night.
Thank you. Well, you can see the desperation setting in. His behavior, as I said, is becoming more and more erratic. And now he is living not just in desperation, but in fear as well. Because guess what, listeners and viewers? Richard is afraid of the dark. You heard him during the Christmas season distributing toys, you know, bawling out, crying like a baby that he does not want to be in the dark. What are you afraid of, Richard Frederick? What is it? Driver, drive. I don't want to be exposed to the dark. You're afraid of the dark, Richard? You're afraid of your own people now? I wonder why. There's a reason why you're running scared, Richard Frederick. But you know what? I hope that St. Lucians do no harm to you, that they just run you out. I want to read a message, a WhatsApp message that came in there. It says, Philip Pierre is caught in a web of his deceit. He tried to play with Richard, but did not or forgot to read Richard's rules. But to read any rules after you have started playing, who does that? A novice. And so that was a WhatsApp message. And, you know, again, you know, I don't think Philip J. Pierre is a novice. He knows exactly what he is doing. He's just showing you the disdain and disrespect that he has for St. Lucians. And he wouldn't do it himself, but he has Richard Frederick doing his dirty work for him. And exactly what Richard is doing is how the St. Lucia Labour Party feels about St. Lucians. Because if they did not feel that way about you, they would not condone or endorse that kind of behavior. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we have to determine for ourselves, you know, what passes for government in this country. Who are the people we elect in this country? Why? Okay, we have a caller on line, and I would like to bring that caller in to try to get as many callers as possible. Caller, could you go ahead and make your contribution? Happy New Year to you. Welcome to Like It Is. Could you go ahead and tell it like it is? Good evening, caller.
Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year to you. Yeah. Go ahead, caller.
Spider, it bamboozles anybody. Find out they were free government in power. You basically in every government. You mean to tell me that St. Lucians will sit there and be so ignorant to believe that this is the guy that you guys would like to see come down?
Oh, okay. All right, I didn't quite get the gist of what the caller was saying, but I was part of two governments, not three. And one of those governments, I happened to have worked with Richard Frederick, and so I saw the individual firsthand. And so I know enough about Richard Frederick not to be surprised by his current behavior. And I think that the United Workers' Party did the right thing of expelling him from their ranks. And I will continue to say that is one of the things I gave Alan Shastney credit for, having the courage to have done it as political leader. And I wish that Philip J. Pierre, despite how desperate he was to become prime minister, who used Richard Frederick and Stephenson King, but would realize that at the same time there's a limit to everything, and that political ascendancy is not supposed to be the only consideration, but that the integrity of government and the respect and reputation of our country is also very important. We lost that WhatsApp call. Yeah. Do we have any callers on the direct line? Okay, we have a caller on the direct line. Caller, could you please go ahead? Welcome to Like It Is. Happy New Year to you. Tell it like it is.
Yes, Spider, I got cut off and you got cut off.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, caller.
I want to find out, because it is just mind-boggling that three administrations had the opportunity to get whatever information they wanted of the accusations that you're making on Richard.
So could you stop a moment? Well, I want to stop you for a moment, caller. What accusation have I made about Richard Frederick? Everything you heard me say came from the St. Lucia Labour Party, which he is a part of. Are you hearing me, caller? Caller, are you hearing me?
Yeah.
I said the accusations that you're referring to didn't come from me. It came from the St. Lucia Labour Party, with whom Richard Frederick is sitting in cabinet with. Okay, so caller, do not ascribe statements to me that I'm not responsible for. When the allegations of criminality, the allegations of money laundering, drug trafficking and murder and all of those things you heard about Richard Frederick certainly did not come from me. Okay, and I'm not in a position to know those things, as well as some of the people who said it. And I said that among those people are prime ministers who have more information than you and I will ever have, and they have more intimate knowledge about things that are happening in the country because they get security briefings and they get information about special individuals like Richard Frederick, so they would know. So Sir John knew, King knew, Dr. Anthony knew, Alan Shastney knew, Philip Pierre knows. Yes, we have a caller online. Welcome to Like It Is, caller. Happy New Year to you. Please go ahead and tell it like it is. Hello? Okay, we lost that caller. So I was saying that, there is no defense for the current government because they have not uttered one word of condemnation for what Richard Frederick is doing. Whenever it is brought to the Prime Minister's attention, even when things are said in his very presence, he pretends that he did not hear it or he does not know about it. That, the bluff, like I said, will not continue. Now, the last caller seemed to have been trying to make a case for Richard Frederick. If you condone that kind of behavior, it means that you're just like Richard Frederick and you're capable of what Richard Frederick is doing and you think nothing wrong of what he's doing. But I certainly do not condone or endorse that behavior. I think it is reprehensible and should be condemned roundly. And the condemnation should start with Philip J. because he is responsible for having Richard Frederick where he is now doing what he is doing. Do we have a caller online? Okay, we lost that caller. Pardon? Okay. We lost that caller. So I was saying, when I say what I say, I don't just, pull things out of the clear blue skies. And I do not take credit for statements that were made by others. I'm not the one who said the things that I said there. I specifically indicated that it was said by the St. Lucia Labour Party. And I believe that they knew what they were talking about because Dr. Anthony in particular was in a position to know. Now, Philip J. Pierre was his deputy, so he could have known as well. And now he's prime minister, he knows. So if they want to protect or condone or endorse or encourage the behavior, that's up to them. But I think it is unbecoming of a minister of government. It is unbecoming of an administration or regime to have an individual such as Richard Frederick doing what he's doing on their behalf on a weekly basis, and they say and do nothing about it. We have a caller. Caller, could you please go ahead and make your contribution? Welcome to Like It Is. Please go ahead and tell it like it is. Happy New Year to you. Hello? Okay, we seem to be having some problem here. Our calls are dropping. Okay, we have 1 minute left, so I will just wrap up because we seem to be having a problem on the line anyway. So let me just say that in tonight's program, in our first segment, SLP, Secret Lies and Propaganda, you heard the Prime Minister lying to St. Lucians, and he was, of course, exposed by the unions. Okay, I'm going to take this last call. I see, oh no, drop again. And so I also told you about the year that was, despite what the Prime Minister tried to make us believe. But you see, you cannot fool all the people all the time. You cannot tell me I have $1 million in my pocket. I know exactly how much I have in my pocket. You can't fool me on that. And so, as the Prime Minister sought to mislead us about health care and about the cost of living and about that the high prices. Of course, he cannot deny the high prices, but he's telling you that it was imported. It was not only imported, the 2.5% was locally manufactured by the St. Lucia Labour Party. And that added to the plight of St. Lucians. And so I want to say that we also looked at Richard Frederick, his behavior, and the disdain and disrespect that the St. Lucia Labour Party has for St. Lucians. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you got I shed some light on some of the issues, and it's a pity I didn't get more of you to share your views because we had some issues with the calls dropping. But I look forward to meeting with you again next Monday, and I invite you to join us on Like It Is next Monday, where we will continue to discuss the issues that are of interest and concern to you. I want to thank all of you who watched and listened. I want to thank those of you who watch us on Hot 7 TV, those who are listening on Kiss FM, those of you who are in the diaspora on Caribbean FM, Caribbean Hot FM, sorry. I said hit earlier, but it should be Caribbean Hot FM. You can, who are watching on the Caribbean Hot FM app. And those of you who are watching us on live stream on Facebook, I want to thank you so much. I want to thank all of you throughout St. Lucia and in the diaspora. And I invite you to join us next week when we'll have another episode of Like It Is. Thank you very much and have a good night.